Well, hello everybody. You are listening to Throwback Country Music. I am your host, Brady Jones. First off, do us a big favor and hit that subscribe button. That helps the podcast grow, and we can continue to bring you the biggest stars of the 80s and 90s. Today's show is such a good show, so thank you for downloading it. It is Brady Seals, formerly of Little Texas, one of the founding members of Little Texas. Little Texas was one of the biggest selling country music bands in the 90s. They had many hits, and Brady wrote several of those hits, including the song My Love, What Might Have Been, God Blessed Texas. Brady shares some really cool stories, and I'm so excited for you to hear about these stories. Be sure you visit us on the web at throwbackcountrymusicpodcast.com. Tell your friends and family members about us as well. Without further ado, here he is, Mr. Brady Seals. Well, hey everybody, we are here with Brady Seals, and you will know him once we get started. He is such a great singer, artist, and incredible songwriter. Brady, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing good here in Franklin, which is south of Nashville, and it's kind of a dreary day, fall weather, but hey, I'm on this side of the soil, so I can't complain.
Man, when I go to Nashville, Franklin is my favorite place to stay.
You know what, man? I had lived all around Nashville and experienced all different parts of town, and was always familiar with Franklin. But it was only until I don't know, maybe 10 years ago when I really fell in love with the town. It's a quaint little place and wonderful to raise a family, and so just happy to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, as I was doing research for this particular show, you are a really unique and multi-talented person, and
well, thank you, man.
What I mean by that is you have these projects going on like Seals and Croft, the Petty Junkies, and this Highwayman tribute. Let's start with Seals and Croft. What's all that about, and how'd you get that started?
Well, I was putting together a music project, and I was going to call it the Seals Family Album. And because, for those out there that don't know who I am, of course, my last name is Seals. Mm-hmm. And so I'm related to a bunch of people in the music industry. The one that I was most familiar with growing up was my Uncle Troy. He's a Nashville singer-songwriter, and he's in the Songwriter Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. The last time I checked, he had over 40 number one songs, songs like Who's Gonna Fill Their Shoes and Seven Spanish Angels and Lost in the 50s. So I grew up, listening to him, and I was going to do 3 of his songs on my own, right, and kind of remake them. And then also Jimmy Seals of Seals and Crofts is a cousin. Then Dan Seals, or England Dan, some people know him as. I was going to do 3 songs of his, and then 3 songs of mine that I've had with Little Texas, and so on and so forth. And we were kind of getting this thing up and rocking, and I called Lua, which I've known for years and years, which is Dash Crofts' daughter. Mm-hmm. And I asked her to come over and see if she would sing on some of the Seals and Crofts songs that I was doing, like Summer Breeze and Diamond Girl, and Get Closer. And she said, sure. So when she came over, it was just magic, man. I was like, golly, our voices blended so well. And, I was like, you know what? I need to put all this other stuff on the back burner just for a moment and really concentrate on this. And Lou and I have decided to kind of move forward and to do some dates as Seals and Crofts too.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful, man. I mean,
cool.
we've already been doing a couple of things. We've got a show coming up November the 28th at 3rd and Lindsley here in Nashville. And it's going to be a special show because we're not only are we going to be opening for the Little River Band, it's for a wonderful cause, but Dash is flying in, and Jimmy is going to be there, and so it's like, wow, it's just cool. It's going to be really cool, yeah. And we're going to try to get them to get up on stage with us and maybe do a song or two.
That would be pretty cool, right there, y'all.
It really is. I'm just so thrilled and so honored to carry the torch of Seals and Crofts' legacy, and hopefully we do it justice.
Yeah, man. And what about the Petty Junkies? I'm a huge Tom Petty fan.
Yeah, well, I've always been a Petty fan. I mean, he's always walked this really, really cool line between rock and roll and country, and I kind of feel like I've done the same thing throughout the years. Sure. And I've always just looked up to Petty, and I've had the privilege to work with Stan Lynch in the past. He was the drummer for the Heartbreakers, right. And so I always felt this kindred kind of thing, with Petty. And my friend Lonnie Wilson called me up, which those of you who don't know who Lonnie is, Lonnie's had a lot of success as a songwriter, but he's a world-class drummer here in town. And they were putting together this little tribute thing, and they asked me to be a part of it. And sure enough, I got into this thing, and it's one of the best bands I've ever been in. I mean, all these guys are like Studio A players. Oh, wow. There's Mark Hill on bass, Lonnie Wilson on drums, Blair Masters on keyboards, Jerry McPherson on guitar, and then Gordon Kennedy on guitar as well. And for those that don't know, it's just look them up.
I mean, they're top notch. I know
they are. They're the who's who of Nashville, and so I'm just so thrilled to be a part of this band. And every time we play, it's awesome. It's killer.
That's awesome, man. And now, are you still doing the Highwayman tribute band, or what's that?
Well, that was something that got up and running for a moment, and truthfully, it just didn't get enough traction for us to get out there and get out on the road. And I think that the reason was all four of us that was going to do this thing was extremely busy. All of our schedules were just so nuts that we could never nail a date down. We would have dates come in, and we would say, hey, can you do it? Can you do it? And nobody could do it, So, but it was made up of me, Paul Jefferson, Buddy Jewell, and Ray Scott. And we were just going to go out and just kind of play the music of the legends, Willie and Waylon and Johnny and Chris,
And Ray has such a cool voice, man.
Oh, man. Yeah. And super cool dude. Same thing with Buddy. They're just great people. It's just they're so busy,
Right. Well, to find out more information, y'all, you can go to bradyseals.com, and all of that is on there. Even some of his dates are on there as well. Well, let me ask you this, Brady. What got you into music, and who were your influences growing up, and all that good stuff?
Well, I started playing piano when I was 9, and it was just just on a whim. Mom brought a piano home one day, and she thought that it might be cool for me to learn, and I picked it up immediately. But I always played by ear. I still to this day, I don't really read sheet music or anything like that. But my biggest influences, just as a musician, I would say, or musician / artist, would probably be like Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis, and I grew up like on real country kind of stuff, like Waylon and Willie and Merle, and then of course later on, I mean, the sky was the limit. I listened to everything from Queen to Badfinger to Jellyfish to AC/DC and Prince, and so I as I got deeper and deeper into music, the more I wanted to learn. So I just was like a sponge and would listen and listen and listen, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So the influences are vast,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that makes who you are today, I'm sure.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Well, one thing that I know the listeners are going to really love, when you, I guess, quote unquote, hit it big, you know, you were with a bunch of guys who had long hair, jacked up to Jesus, and it was the y'all looked so cool, but yet y'all looked so different than what was out in country. Y'all stood out to me. How did you guys come together and get signed to Warner Brothers?
Well, and I think that you're speaking of Little Texas.
I am,
you know, and
yeah.
you know, I had been out on the road with this guy named Josh Logan.
Okay.
And Dell and I, Dell Gray, which
Mm-hmm.
was the drummer of Little Texas, but he and I played together in this band called, with Josh Logan and this girl named Sandy Powell. And we played every honky tonk from the Catskill Mountains to Paso Robles, California. I mean, we played it all. And I did that for a couple of years. And while we were out there, we played the Big E Fair up in Massachusetts. And on the same stage, we shared with a band called the Varsities, and they were a 50s and 60s band, which would become Little Texas.
Oh.
And yeah, they played 50s and 60s stuff or whatever, but Porter, the guitar player,
Mm-hmm.
knew a guy named Christy DiNapoli, which is a guy.
Yeah.
And Christy knew of a guy named Doug Grau who had just become one of the A&R guys over at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And they said, you know, hey, you know, Dell and Brady wants you to join the band, and you know, we instead of a 50s and 60s thing, we do like a country band, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, our first gig, well, actually, we started rehearsing on a cruise line because we had booked a 50s and 60s show.
Yeah.
And we were on there rehearsing all this kind of stuff or whatever. And our first show, we played in Marietta, Georgia, opening for Travis Tritt.
Wow.
And this was before, you know, he was Travis, you know.
Oh,
it was when he first put out Country Club.
Yeah.
And that was the start of it, you know, and we went on to be on Star Search, which was the equivalent to American Idol or The Voice nowadays, you know.
Wow.
And we were finalists, and we did that for, you know, like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 years or whatever before we got some real traction and before the label really kind of gave us our shot.
Yeah.
And yeah, we all had hair for days, man. It was crazy. And I don't know, you know, I think that we were all just, you know, influenced by so many different kinds of music, you know, like I was just saying before. I mean, it was the day and age of glam rock, you know. There was, you know, Bon Jovi and White Snake and Poison and all that kind of stuff that was happening at the time, you know, and you know, we'd hang out with those dudes when we were out on the road. So it was just a part of the culture, you know, at the time. And for whatever reason, it worked and you know, was able to, you know, make a success out of it. And I couldn't be more blessed. You know, it was awesome.
It's, just, I mean, when I because I'm a child of the 90s, and my favorite genre is country. And of course, and someone told me last week that they believe it's almost like the 90s country from 90 to 99 is almost like its own genre now because it's so popular still today. Yeah,
well, it is. You know, I mean, 4 of the guys of Little Texas are still out there doing their thing, you know, under the name Little Texas. And now me and Tim Rushlow, we're off kind of doing our own things these days.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's still very popular, man. You know, I know Tim does a thing with Larry Stewart and
Richie
McDonald called The Front Men, and they go out and they do their thing, and actually they played for Trump's inauguration, which
I
was
know.
crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I saw that Tim just talked to you not long back,
Right.
and which is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a super cool guy.
Yeah.
We actually, I guess about 3 years ago, we sat down at Panera Bread there right out in Franklin, at the Target, right there in the Target shopping center. And man, he poured into me, just mentoring, just get me, just all kinds of cool stuff. And he was a super cool guy. And but here's the cool thing. Now I was going to share this. I guess it was maybe 90. When did Big Time come out? Do you remember?
Big Time came out, I think, in 91, maybe 92.
Well, that's when I was at Dollywood. I was probably 9 years old, and y'all were there at the Celebrity Theater right there in Dollywood. And
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, y'all had about 4 or 5 singles already out, so y'all had a name. And I remember Big Time had just come out because your encore was "God Bless Texas," and I'd never heard the song. That was my first time hearing it. But as a kid, I'm like in awe of this band up there that looked like Bon Jovi rockers, and y'all were singing country and just singing these songs that were different than anything else I'd heard of on the radio at the time. And so that's where I first saw Little Texas.
Well, I don't know if you knew this or not, but Dell actually, it was like maybe a year later or something like that, he got married to his wife in Dollywood.
Wow.
Yeah, after going down there to play that show, he just fell in love with the whole vibe and stuff like that, and sure enough, got married down there.
That's crazy. Well,
yeah.
Oh, well, and I just thought of this now. About 4 years ago, I was with my buddy. We went just hanging out at Cherokee, and we rode up to Pigeon Forge, and we were walking around riding some rides there at Dollywood, and I went to the little outside of the Celebrity Theater and asked the attendant, and I said, "Who's playing today?" And he goes, "Tim Rushlow."
Cool.
I know, small world.
Wow, it is.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: when First Time for Everything came out, and y'all started getting this radio play and started getting recognized, what kind of whirlwind were you guys on?
Well, it was absolutely nuts, man. I thought that I toured a lot with Josh Logan.
Yeah.
I mean, we toured hard, but Little Texas was on another level, man.
Yeah.
I mean, when we toured. The year before I left the band,
Mm-hmm.
we were on the road 322 days that year.
Good Lord.
Yeah. So we were hitting it hard. I think that some magazine, I forget which one it was, called us the hardest working country band, and I mean, to this day, I talk to a lot of the guys from Lone Star and Restless Heart and all those dudes, and none of them, they're all like, "Are you serious? You really work that much?" So it was crazy, and that year we actually made a record too. So it was nonstop, and. So yes, it was a whirlwind. We played every city, that I can think of.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, I don't even hardly remember it all because we were just, put in the limo, put on the bus, go to the venue, play the gig, get on a plane, fly. It was just, It was nonstop.
My favorite record, and I had every record of Little Texas, and my favorite one was Big Time. And for some reason, I was drawn to that record. Every song, not just the ones on the radio. I was a huge fan of every song. And I used to, when I was like 11 years old, I'd mow the grass, and I'd have my little Walkman in. I was listening to Big Time. And but the cool thing is, you wrote 3 back-to-back #1 singles. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a huge feat for me. I won ASCAP's 3 consecutive #1s that year, and it was mind blowing for me. Because like I said, my uncle Troy was a songwriter, and I grew up wanting to be a songwriter. I mean, that's what I wanted to be. Not necessarily a performer, but a songwriter.
Yeah.
So, it was a huge thing for me. And, to this day, I'm so appreciative to everyone involved, including the band and management and the label and stuff like that for picking my songs and letting me have a voice in that.
Man,
that was awesome.
And for those of you listening, these are the songs he wrote off that record. And going number one in country radio is huge. Cracking the top 10 is huge, but number one is a whole other story. What Might Have Been. That is still What Might Have Been, and then was it God Bless Texas? You had your hand in that, and I just drew a blank. My Love, yes, the one that you sang lead on. Man, to have 3 number ones, a lot of artists are. I have a buddy that made the top 5 with a little big town cut, but to have 3 back-to-back number ones, I just not blowing smoke, but that's a huge feat for any songwriter / artist. And for when you were, I guess my question is, did the producer say, "Hey, let's try Brady on My Love," or did you say that's the one that's my voice?
That's pretty much what it was. My Love almost didn't make the record. It was the last song. Yeah, it was the last song to be recorded, and I wrote that one with Tommy Barnes and Porter Howe.
Yeah,
and Tim had went out to sing it, and for whatever reason he was just not feeling it, or whatever the case may be, and they pointed at me and they said, "Seals, you want to take a stab at it?" And I went out and sang it, and of course I wrote it, so I felt more of a closeness to it, and was able to pull it off, and it made the record, and then lo and behold, the record company had heard from the radio station saying that, hey, what if My Love was a single? And so sure enough, we released it third, and that's the one with the video of me rolling around on the beach and what have you.
Yeah.
and it was great, man. It was just it was awesome, and then we were ready for the next phase, which was the Kick a Little record after that. And of course we come out of the box with Kick a Little, and I think that was top 5 maybe. And then that's when I left the band, actually. But I also wrote Amy's Back in Austin, which was another big hit, and I think that was Grammy nominated. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Amy's Back in Austin. That's one of my favorites. I didn't know that you had a hand in that one. That's cool.
Yeah, me and Stephen Allen Davis wrote that. Yep.
Wow, man. Well, it looks like the Lord blessed your desires to be a songwriter and a performer.
Yes, he did, and I'm so grateful.
And well, here's something cool. Now, I was reading Little Texas. Y'all got so big that y'all were headlining your own tours in arenas. And tell us about who was opening for you.
Well, it's funny because when I left, we were getting ready to do a tour with Tim McGraw where we would co-headline.
Okay.
And what that means was or is that we would switch back and forth each night as to who closed the show.
Wow.
And I had always had a real close connection with Tim anyway, because he was good friends with Tommy Barnes. Tommy and I wrote My Love together, but Tommy wrote Indian Outlaw for Tim, and so I knew him pretty well, and just knew that once he released the song "Don't Take the Girl," I knew that the dude would just blow up. I just knew it. It was a great song, And but anyway, yeah, man. I mean, we had the opportunity to share the stage with some really, really wonderful people back then. We did a big tour with Clint Black one time, and we did another tour with Trisha Yearwood and Travis Tritt, the Rock and Country Budweiser tour.
That's a cool tour.
Yeah, that was a great tour, man. That was a big one, and then of course, we had opened and closed for many other artists. I think one of our biggest shows was out in Arizona, opening up for Dwight Yoakam, and I remember looking out, and I think somebody said that there was over 200,000 people.
Oh wow!
I can't even imagine that, but like 200,000 people. And there was just as far as the eye could see, and it was a dream, man. It really, really was. I mean, I grew up in Fairfield, Ohio, and things were small, man, and I never would have dreamed that it would get so big as it did, and like you said, I'm extremely grateful for the Lord.
That's crazy, man. That's awesome to hear you talk about that, and even today, this. When you turn on the radio, you're gonna. And the cool thing about it from the '90s, I still hear "God Bless Texas" on the radio a lot. It's still in rotation on several stations, so that's got to be a cool thing.
Well, it's extremely cool, and I've heard through the grapevine. I'll tell you this one quick story. Little Texas got invited to come out to Texas to play or to sing the national anthem for a Texas Rangers game. Mm-hmm. Nolan Ryan was pitching,
he was big, yeah.
He was huge back then, man. Sure. And, growing up, I played sports, and I was a pitcher myself, so I was just, like, enamored. I was like, oh, my gosh, it's freaking Ryan, Nolan Ryan. So not only did we sing the national anthem, we came back to our seats, and lo and behold, I sit down and had hot dogs and a beer with George W. Bush for 3 hours. Yeah, we just hung out because he was part owner of the Texas Rangers, and this was before he was governor and all of that stuff. And man, he was as nice as he could be. Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican.
Sure.
Just as a man, personally, he was great to hang out with, and just really, really cool. And so I get to hang out with this guy. Well, he befriends all of us and the whole bit. And I hear later on down the line that he's getting ready to run for president. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just had beer and hot dogs with this guy. And sure enough, I hear that when he was governor, whenever he would walk into the room for whatever, like a press conference or whatever the case may be, he would play "God Bless Texas." Sweet. Right? That's just so cool, man. This is the president, and I think somebody said that Forbes magazine did some sort of interview with him and asked him what his top 10 songs were on his iPod, and "God Bless Texas" was one of the 10, Wow. And I was just like, man, that's so cool,
It is awesome, man.
It's wonderful.
I bet he would be cool to hang out with on the farm.
He is. He really is. Funny dude,
Well, so moving right along, man, I bought this when I was, I think, a junior in high school. There was a single, and back then we had little singles on tapes. I bought a single called "Another You, Another Me."
Yeah.
And, dude, me and my cousin, we would ride around, Raising Cain, of course, and for some reason that song was on repeat. We would sing it to the top of our lungs.
Wow, man.
Tell us about that record, man.
Well, I had come out of Little Texas, and I won't go into the big, long thing as to why I left, but it was grueling. The road was very grueling. There was personality conflicts and stuff like that. But anyway, I left the group, and I got another deal as a solo artist, and I was produced by Rodney Crowell.
Oh, wow.
And Rodney and I become really, really good friends. And, of course, Rodney knows everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And I made 2 records with Rodney, and he brought in incredible players, Stuart Smith, who is now in the Eagles. There was Max Carl of 38 Special. There was Ricky Skaggs, Bela Fleck, just all these incredible players. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Best of the best.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And he also brought in Winona Judd.
Dude, I was about to say that.
Yeah, he brought in Winona to sing "Another You, Another Me." And we released it out of the box, and it broke all kinds of records coming out of the box. But for whatever reason, I'm not for sure who was responsible or whatever the case may be, but the record label just really dropped the ball because we had a lot of steam coming out of the box, but the record label didn't release the whole record until 3 months later.
Wow.
And it just took all the steam out of it. That we didn't sell as many records and so on and so forth. But looking back on it, that record really was a great record. I wish that I had written that song. My uncle Troy Seals and Will Jennings wrote that song, and it's an incredible song.
Do you still play it live?
I do, yeah.
Oh, sweet. Well, man, the funny thing is when people ask me who my favorite female artist of the 90s is, I always say Winona, hands down.
Yeah.
Her vocals, and man, even today, I saw her live last year, and she is incredible still.
Yeah, she can still pull it off.
And what she did with harmony on that single, I mean, that to me that took it to a whole other level. You and her together.
I think so too. Thanks to Rodney Crowell, you know.
Yeah, and man, he is awesome. If you don't know who Rodney Crowell is, guys, you need to Google him, and you'll be like, wow, okay, I realize what a big deal he is.
Well, yeah, for those that don't know, I mean, I think that Rodney was the first country artist to ever have 5 number-1 songs in a row.
Yeah.
Off the Diamonds and Dirt record back in the late 80s, I think.
Yeah, he was a huge star in the 80s, man.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on, and you may not even listen to it, but what are your thoughts on today's country music compared to the golden era that many people consider the 90s?
Well, you know, it's different.
Yeah.
It's definitely different. You know, they're paving their own way, and you know, you got to give credit for that.
Yeah.
It's not my bag of tea. You know, it's not something that I listen to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I do like some artists. I like Casey Musgraves, and I like Brett Young.
Yeah.
You know, there's some artists that really, you know, catch my ear.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I just hope that we don't venture too far from where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always been a, you know, country music traditionalist when it comes to music, you know, I mean, the old stuff, you know, I mean, even older than, you know, the Merle Haggard stuff. I love bluegrass, you know, I love bluegrass and so for me, I just hope that these new artists, are able to do their homework and know the history behind what they're doing and know who influenced the influencer. You know?
Yeah, hey, I feel you, man. That's a good answer. And when I had Lori Morgan on the show, she didn't hold back about her thoughts of today's country. Let's just say that.
I'm sure that there's some that really don't like. Yeah.
And well, I talked to Jeannie Seeley, a Grand Ole Opry member, 51 years today, actually, this afternoon.
Wow.
And she told me the Opry is her life, and that's what she said.
Yeah.
And she said she does not want. She's pulling for these artists today, but she wants us to live long enough to make sure that the Opry doesn't go down, because you know she wants the artists to realize where they come from, you know, the history.
Well, that's the thing, you know. I think that, you know, country, you know, and that's a big phrase because it means a lot.
Sure.
You know, but in my mind, country means roots. It means organic, something gritty, something real, and I just don't want to make it too, I don't know, too poppy.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
That's all I can say. I mean, look, Little Texas was. Look, we were kind of rock and roll too, and I'm sure a lot of people back then thought, oh my gosh, what in the world? You know, especially when we played the Opry. They were like, what in the world is this coming up here? You know, but what we tried to do is we tried to make sure that we were real. I mean, we played on our own records. We didn't use loops. We were we were a real band.
Wait a second. Now, back up. So that's a big deal, and I know exactly what you're saying. So you guys played on your records.
Yes, we played on all of our records.
That makes my heart happy.
Yes.
And people listening might not grasp that, but that is a big deal, guys.
Yeah, because I think when I grew up in the industry, I looked and found out that a lot of bands that I grew up with didn't play on the records,
right.
And I was so disappointed. I was like, "Oh my gosh, really?" All of those wonderful records that I thought that everybody was playing on, they weren't really playing on it. It was disheartening. Heartening, and for us, thankfully, all of us were musicians and singers, and we were able to pull it off. But yeah, I just hope that there's some real bands that get back to the real stuff.
I agree, man. Bringing this back up, Lori was with a guy here recently, a bass player, and he said, "Well, I got to get home and lay down a track." And she goes, "What are you talking about, lay down a track? You're not going to the studio?" And he said, "Oh, no, we play it and we just email it to the producer." And she she couldn't wrap her mind around that. She said
it happens all the time these days. Yeah,
loses the emotion of the song. She was saying, but
it does. The studios have really taken a dive here in Nashville. Because of that very thing.
And tell us about. And I know we've went long, but I got to hear about Hot Apple Pie. And what a group of musicians, by the way.
Well, thank you, man. Hot Apple Pie, I would have to say, is probably the best band that I've ever been in. I just love the vibe. Nothing against Little Texas or the Petty Junkies and all that kind of stuff, but it's just something about the music itself with Hot Apple Pie. My heart was really, really into. It was made up of me and Mark Mateka, who later became one of the members of Leonard Skinner, and Trey Landry and Keith Horn. And all four of those dudes were just incredible. And it was all I could do whenever I would go on stage to just keep up with those dudes because they were so good.
Yeah.
And I remember us going out, and we opened a couple of shows for Tim McGraw and a couple of shows for Keith Urban, and I remember Keith, coming to our trailer before the show or whatever, and saying, "Hey, man, so glad to have you guys on tour," and this and that. He was as kind as he could be, but I'll never forget him. While I was on stage, looking over to the side of the stage and watching Keith watch the band, and watching specifically Keith Horn and Mark Mateka play, because those guys were just incredible musicians. And Keith loved it. He was just like, "Oh my gosh," he was knocked out, And so the song Hillbillies was a crazy little ditty thing that our producer Richard Landis really, really, really wanted us to put out, and the video was so cool, and it got us some traction, and we were primed and ready to go, and we were rocking up the charts, and then all of a sudden our record label went under, and DreamWorks went under. They stopped being DreamWorks, and then we got switched over to Universal, and then Universal didn't know what to do with us at all because we were so left of center, And but it was a wonderful ride while we had it. I think it lasted for about maybe 2-3 years or so.
Well, it was a great record. And
thank you, man. Thank you. I think one of my coolest cuts on that record, it was a song that me and my uncle Troy and Gordon Bradbury wrote called "Slowing Down the Fall." We had Willie Nelson come in and sing a duet with us, which was really cool.
Yeah. What's he like? Is he what we think? Just so cool?
Yes, he's all of that and a bag of chips.
Yeah.
I mean, Willie is the real deal, and I'll never forget him coming in. We had waited all day long. We didn't know whether or not he was going to come to the studio or not,
Yeah.
But sure enough, he finally showed up, and he sat down in the producer's chair, and I stood behind him, and I said, hey, here's the song, check it out, see if you can add something to this. And he listened to the song, and when he got done with the song, he turned around and he said, "Oh, that's a really good song," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's freaking Willie Nelson right there," And I mean, it was amazing, I mean, that was the biggest compliment I believe I've ever had in my life.
That's a
for
surreal
Willie
moment.
Nelson to say something. It was awesome.
Well, what I do with each artist that come on the show, we do something really fun called Rapid Fire. So it'll be called Rapid Fire with Brady Seals.
Okay.
And, it's really fun. I'll say something, you tell me whatever comes to your mind. So we'll start with this. Favorite food?
Pizza.
Favorite movie?
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Ah, good choice. Favorite place you've ever traveled?
Switzerland.
A concert memory that stands out?
Kool and the Gang.
Favorite venue you've ever played? That's tough, isn't it?
That's a big one right there. Gosh, I would probably say Bridgestone Arena in Nashville.
Oh, sweet. And tonight is the CMA Awards at Bridgestone.
Yes, it is at Bridgestone, right?
Yeah, we're doing a Facebook Live show tonight with our listeners, and we're going to watch it and critique and choose and pick winners and all that good stuff.
I love it.
Now, if there were a Mount Rush, I love this question, by the way. Do you know Danny Shirley?
Yes, I know Danny.
Yeah, he was
from Confederate Railroad, right?
Sure thing. He was on the show, and he had a blast doing this. If there were a Mount Rushmore of country music, males, you can do 4 males and 4 females, separate Mount Rushmores, and you can do groups, bands, who would you put? Let's start with the males. If you could choose 4 males or groups, what would you do?
Merle Haggard.
Mm-hmm.
Willie Nelson.
Yeah.
Waylon Jennings.
Yeah.
And Johnny Cash.
Oh man, that's sweet. That's awesome. How about if there were a Mount Rushmore for females?
I would say Reba.
Mm-hmm.
Dolly Parton.
Mm-hmm.
Tammy Wynette. And Loretta Lynn.
You said 3 of Danny's, by the way. Dolly, Tammy, and Loretta. That's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much, Brady. This has been a great talk.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much for having me.
And hang on the line for a second, and we'll tell everybody goodbye. Thanks for listening, people. Be sure you check out bradyseals.com. He has some good stuff on there. And check out his music, man. He's still making music, and he's still out on the road. He's such a cool guy. bradyseals.com. Have a great day. Well, thank you so much for downloading this podcast and for listening to the show with Brady Seals. I sure hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to visit us on the web at throwbackcountrymusicpodcast.com. Continue to help us spread the word. Please hit that subscribe button. Write a quick review. Give us a 5-star rating. This podcast has really taken off, and we want it to continue to gain steam. And so you are the ones that will help with that. So I want to continue to bring you the biggest stars from the 80s and the 90s. And next Sunday, you will hear my interview with T. Graham Brown. So be sure you tune in to that. Visit us on Facebook.com/Britt Jones Music. Instagram and Twitter are both at Britt Jones Music. That's 1 T. I hope you do that and start following us. And you'll be able to get information on who's coming up on the show and all that good stuff. I hope you have a great week, and I will see you right back here next Sunday on Throwback Country Music.